Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to... Wow, my game was incredibly high on my microphone. Is it worth redoing that intro? My bad if that blasted all your eardrums out. I've just turned it back down. Massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Mel's 24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Harry Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I said I was watching a Starfield video review, right? Called Starfield and the AAA gaming falling off. It was clickbait and I fell for it. But it's kind of a surprise to hear a game that was developed for 8 years and people not being happy about it.
Well, they're just not happy that it runs on their software, their hardware, right? Because it's poorly optimized. It's new and just doesn't run that great. But in the time that it's taken you to read that article about Starfield, they've done an update and it now performs better than it did before. Which makes you think, why did they come out initially when everyone moaned about it and say, no, it is optimized for PC, which is what their development team said when asked. Well, okay, fine. Why is it suddenly take a massive improvement when you do a bit of a driver update or something then? You know, you do a game update and suddenly everyone else is getting better performance where they were getting garbage performance. You're like, oh, okay, well, maybe it was optimized, but it wasn't optimized well, was it?
Right. I heard there's a lot of issues with that too. But even people that did manage to get the game running well, they're not satisfied with the game either, it seems.
Yeah, sure. But when it first came out, it was crushing 4090s on the day of release.
Wait, what?
The top end best PC graphics card you can buy. When Starfield first came out, you know, it was demanding for the very, very best graphics card that was available.
I gotcha. Well, either way, you said they optimized it good now, right?
Yeah. My kids want the new Bluey game, and my wife was like, I get this for the kids. I was like, yeah, sure. She shoves the phone underneath me and she goes, does your PC meet these requirements? I'm like, are you having me on? To play Bluey? I'm sure it'll be all right. Just like this PC could play Starfield. It's a brand new computer that's modern. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll be all right with Bluey.
Right. Yeah, so she doesn't have any idea about that sort of stuff. I gotcha.
I should bloody hope it's all right with Bluey. Let's put it that way. I got the old graphics card back from Craig today. So my car had an engine warning light come on, and given that in the last 12 months a car has exploded whilst I'm driving it, I didn't really want this car to die, otherwise we're buggered. So it's like, okay, warning lights come on, I'm going to be overly cautious and just turn around and go home, which meant my eldest didn't get to see her art history lesson today. Well, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Anyway, I dropped the car in the garage and my PC's guy's shop's just around the corner from the garage. So I went in, I had a chat with him about what might be done if there's any further problems. And one of his customers has got a proper machine shop, with CNC machines and such. And they've agreed on Friday, if I need to mill down the plate that isn't flush with all the memory. Hence me buying all sorts of different thicknesses of thermal pad to get the memory to be kind of flush with this wonky plate that Monster Labo have manufactured and sent out to the guy who bought the PC originally, who's then sent it to me. It's been fitted, but there's these bumps in the way where the memory's supposed to sit on a flat plate. Crap. So obviously I've got in touch with them and said, yes, this has got a problem. It's been manufactured upside down, where there's supposed to be gaps with no memory and a knobbly bit to fill the gap, I assume. The knobbly bit is where the memory's supposed to be, so there's not a flat surface for the memory to sit on. Anyway, so I went in, picked up the old graphics card, and said I'll send it to Scan, the people who supplied it originally to Paul, the guy who bought the computer, so you can have a refund on this card that is faulty. And sent an RMA request to Scan, and they immediately send me back. Well, not immediately. 10 minutes later, they send me back an email, and it's about, if it was on A4, it would be 3 to 4 sides of, have you done this, and then run these tests, this, right? This massive barrage, because they obviously get so many dicks that say, my graphics card's faulty, when it probably isn't. And as I read down the list, right, I'm reading through it, and I could tick off everything he'd asked. It's like, have you put a clean install of older drivers on? Yes, I have. You know what I mean? Have you tried this? And everything he'd suggested had already been done by either me or Craig. So I'm like, yes, I have done that. And at the end of the reply to this RMA request response email from Scan, I'm basically pointing out that every single thing that has been suggested by them to diagnose it has not only been done, but the thing's been wiped, literally brought back to what somebody who went into a shop and bought a brand new computer would get in front of them if they were to open it on day one. That's the state this was returned to. Not only that, it had a new BIOS put on it, right, to top it all off. And I'm telling them this in the email. I'm like, yes, it has had older drivers tried with it, on a fresh install of Windows that's on a fresh BIOS with no other software attached whatsoever, and it still did the same thing. It's now been replaced and the problem seems to have gone away. In other words, your usual wrangle dangle of, well, no, I haven't run the stress test that you've sent me 5 links for. It's like, no, well, in this instance, I haven't done it either, but I assure you it's definitely faulty. It's definitely been tested to within an inch of its life. So yeah, they'll be getting that barrage back from me in response to their barrage of email that says, are you sure it's faulty? Yes, I am.
Wow, so turning something is not as simple as it used to, maybe.
It's one of those that I've got the same level of passion for this as I would if it was someone else, as if it was my own money, because it's not. The card has been replaced, right? As far as I'm concerned, if this card succeeds, that's it, right? Well, no. Somebody put their hand in their pocket, Paul, and bought a £600+ item to solve the problem last time it had a problem. And that solve had a fault. It's like, why the hell should anybody, in this case Paul, be out of pocket by 600 quid? Because that's, as far as I'm concerned, what would be the case, right? It'd just immediately be 600 quid out of pocket. Now, from his perspective, if I just didn't say anything, he wouldn't know. But he's a subscriber. He's one of my mods. I think he'll figure it out. Like, so with the card I bought you 4 months ago, what's happened to that? Well, it's scrap. Why? It's like, well, no need. It had a perfectly pristine box. It was less than 6 months old. It's like, why shouldn't it go back in its box with an RMA request so that he can have his money back? How it should be, right? No way I was going to let it just lie when there's a piece of hardware that owes, as far as I'm concerned, one of my subscribers money.
Right. Well.
Hey.
Hey,
John.
Jaron got back to me.
Oh, jolly good.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do his debate. He's wanting me to show my face on camera, and just exposure I've had with flat Earth. You know, I've not had a good experience. You know what I mean? The idea of, yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, just tell him. He's put out the call to action for a flat Earth debate panel member. You've responded. That's ball in your court. What you want one of the flat Earth debate panel members to come on your show to debate one of your cronies, but they also must be on camera and dox themselves. No.
Yeah, when they found out I was an instrument tech, they practically ruined my life. You know.
Yeah.
So
Got good reason. Not that you should need to give it when someone's put a call to action out to us, and you've responded to it.
I don't know. I don't think fractal curvature is high profile enough. If it was QB, they would let him on without a camera. I'm just joking.
I wasn't on camera.
Yeah. Oh, does that mean you're high profile enough then?
I mean, it's one of those that you can ask, and you can say, no, I'd rather not. But if at that point it's well, then the show won't go on. It's like, right, so you want a very specific, very limited bunch of people. You don't want a Flat Earth debate panel member then. You want some specific person, like myself or Arwin, who appear on camera. Because the majority of you don't, do you?
No. I think John Refactored is high profile enough and he'll represent well. But I don't know.
What's his profile got to do with it?
I don't think it is even about the profile. I think it's about some other thing maybe we don't know about. I'm just kind of joking around a little bit.
Well, that's good to hear. At least he's responded. I mean, you know, my take on it is as you've just said, you know.
Other thing, we're supposed to come up with 3 questions and 4 claims. Like, why do I have to claim anything? I don't get it.
That's your shtick. Come on. Now, yeah, I can side with you on this one because I know exactly where you're going and it makes me smile a lot. But from an empathetic standpoint, you can understand that request, right? Without going, but I don't need to make any claims. Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's awesome. Don't get me wrong here, John. But you surely can empathise with that request, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because all the claims that I would make aren't claims really; they're just axioms, you know.
Right. You took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say you could offer up 3 of the housekeeping questions. And say, well, they're not claims. You go, I don't know what else to offer. What am I claiming? The non-existence of movement isn't a claim. It's setting up for a false dichotomy if I do that. So, you know, here's a couple of housekeeping questions. On you go. Ask Roo if there's any evidence of an elevation angle measurement being attainable from a curved surface. As a claim. Well, it's not a claim. Well, you can rephrase it into a claim if you want to. I claim you can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curve because it ain't an angle. There you go.
Well, with that, I'm either going to be given axioms or definitions of words as my claim. What? You know what I mean? Like what?
That's something you can go through with them. I would go through. This would be your bit. What you're going through with me would be what I would go through with them if I were you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to make as a positive claim that level is horizontal, no matter whether you're a heliocentrist or a flat earther, is that a claim? I mean, it's not really. You
Statement of fact.
Mathematics, they use level.
Sorry, it's me waffling over you. Me cheering when I moan about other people doing exactly that. All right, go ahead.
I was just saying, stating facts aren't exactly making claims. You know what I mean? Like, to say, I know the southern celestial pole is 180 degrees out of phase with the northern celestial pole. That's a claim, right?
Yeah, but it isn't
It's
true.
a claim that, right, right.
Why would you be claiming that? It isn't the case. It's the case in terms of an antipodal
Right.
positional map that's been inverted to give you a celestial sphere. But that would you claim that in terms of a debate physics of the nature of the world that we're dealing with? No, you wouldn't, would you? I see where you're struggling.
Yeah, I mean, 4 claims. I mean, I don't have any. Just like I said, I got axioms and definitions that contradict what they believe, their claims. I don't know what to say to that.
Just rephrase the housekeeping questions. It's easy. Why put so much effort into it? Do the lazy approach. Pick 4 of them at random and chuck them on a reply. Here you go. Here's 4. Don't number them. Don't label them. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. Stick 4 housekeeping questions in. If they're like, this isn't a claim, it's something we ask daily that's in response to this question. You don't have to like it as a claim. If you want to rephrase it yourself into a claim, you may. But that's what I'm offering you. That's what I would do. Least effort possible.
Yeah, but see, I feel like I'm feeding into the ignorance if I phrase that as a claim, because then it's something that can be attacked. You know what I mean?
Well, hold on a second. Why don't you just stick to the axioms you said, right? Like how the world presents itself could be just an axiom, and you just say, well,
just one second,
there's a claim.
Righteous. Sorry. I've seen the show, and I've seen both flat earthers and globe earthers on that show, when suggested that they should make a claim, ask a question, make a baseless assertion, reverse the burden of proof. I have seen all of those things offered up when suggested by Jaron that they need to, quote, offer up a claim. So who cares? He just wants 4 bullet points for his show. Don't stress the importance of the word claim. Claim 1, if you want to call it that, malformed though it might be. Is there any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? Horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. Claim 2. Is there any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? Claim 3. Is there any evidence you can acquire gas pressure without a container? Claim 4. Is there any evidence of the distance to the sun? There you go. I don't like those as claims. Do you not? Do you need to throw you a few examples where you've said, let's hear your next claim, and the person who's making a claim tells the flat earther how they're going to be making a claim of their own? Yeah? Not a problem when a baller offers up a burden of proof reversal fallacy in lieu of a claim, so it shouldn't be a problem for you to offer a housekeeping question.
Oh, I have a claim, I think. Heliocentrism requires a flat Earth more than belief in a flat Earth.
Perfect. Oh, that's genius. I have quoted you literally now dozens of times in the comment section. Yeah? The person will come along and say, how do you explain the latitude lines converging below the equator? And I go, you're going to need a flat plane for that equator. Quote, you guys need the flat plane more than we do, end quote, refracted curvature.
I mean, that's a claim, right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's fairly demonstrable. Okay, that's one.
That's one. You, whoever you may be on the globe side, need not the flat plane more than we do. That's a brilliant claim. Claim 2. All globe claims will require a flat plane to reference in the first instance. AKA, all roads lead to a flat Earth. You need the flat plane more than we do, and all your claims will need a flat Earth. There's 2 claims.
Yeah, it's easy to demonstrate too. Yeah. Okay, I just got to rethink how I'm approaching it.
I feel absolutely awful. I'm so sick.
Have you got the COVID?
I don't know what I've got. I just know I was waking up every 2 hours, coughing my lungs out and splooging bogies all over tissues, and then going back to bed and sleeping for half an hour, tossing and turning for an hour and a half, and then doing the same thing again.
I bet you got allergies and sinus, and maybe a sinus infection. That's what that sounds like.
Possibly. I just think I'm run down, actually. Lugging this computer in and out of its position is physically very demanding, but the reason it's being done, the reason I'm physically lugging something that weighs 25, 30 kilos up and down a very steep set of stairs and into the car and then into a shop and then back out again, is because of the stressful process of getting it to physically function in a computing way, which up until now it hasn't. So that in itself has been not only incredibly time consuming, but incredibly stressful. And over the last week, quite physically demanding as well, just because the thing weighs a lot.
Yeah, I seen one of those beast PCs you said you had. Yeah, they're massive.
It's just the mass of it. It's because it's got no. In a normal PC, you've got empty space, and then there might be an AIO caller attached to the CPU with a load of empty space around that, and then on one of the surfaces, you've got a radiator with a few fans on it. Well, where all that empty space would be, there's 8 kilograms per item of heatsink. Just an enormous mass of aluminium with a load of heat pipes strapped to it, loads of fins of aluminium. And that is it. That's what's in the case. What would normally be attached to a side is free floating in midair against the glass on the outside edges of the PC. So the inside is just heatsink. That's all that's in the computer itself, in the box. And then if you take one of the side panels off, you're immediately confronted by either the back of the graphics card or the back of the motherboard, which is just wonderful. Because obviously, you know, all of the useful stuff is on the back of the motherboard or the back of the graphics card. Anyway.
But yeah, that's what I meant. It's like a big, most towers you got like you said, all that empty space. I don't see much empty anything in those.
Well, there's even less empty space in it now because it's got 4 big, massive spinning hard drives in it that are 6 terabytes each. The size of your normal spinning hard drives, big. 6 fans, which take up space, obviously. A Blu-ray drive, which takes up space. Well, that's to put in there. All the cabling for all the fans and hard drives also takes up space. I can't think of what else is in there, but it's just a mass of stuff, and it's really heavy. It was heavy as just a case. You know, just as a case, it's something like 15, 16 kilos. Just the case. Most people's case weighs nothing. Plus all the components. Anyway, I hope it works. Today's day 2 of it working. And like I say, if it fails by Friday, I'm going to get the guy that Craig's got lined up with a machine shop to machine down the cold plate, or whatever you'd call it, the receiving plate for the GPU, that's supposed to have a flat area for memory to have a little pad on it and sync to it so it gets rid of the heat of the memory. Well, instead of that, there's a whole bunch of ridges and shit in the way, which is just wonderful for a place for your flat memory to go. Anyway, so that I can, hopefully, if it does fail for whatever reason, I think that'll be it's the only temperature on the gauge that's hotter than anything else. However, well within spec. Unlike last time when you're like, what's spec? Well, 107 max. What's it at? 104. Well, in this case, it's like, well, 120 max. It's at max 80. You know what I mean? It can go up to a maximum of 120, but I never see higher than 80. So you think, well, that's well within the parameters. So even if it is not quite attached to the cold plate properly, who cares? It works. Does it matter? Probably not. But on the other hand, did it destroy a GPU in 3 months? Possibly. You just don't know, do you?
Well, what's the ambient temperature of the room right now
20C.
as compared to the rest of the house?
The rest of the house is all 20C. It's all got nice new heaters, so it's regulated at 20C. Might be 21. I can't remember what I set it to. But yeah, 21. And, whilst doing this recording, nothing's hot. Everything's sat at 40 or 50C. Everything, including the GPU memory, which makes me think it is being cooled and just has a higher temp than everything else. And that's just the way it's going to be. Is it worth machining down a block? I'd possibly say no if it survives this entire week. If it doesn't, that's what I'll do on Friday. I'll take it down. I'll be like, yeah, let's get this machine flat. Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody having this much trouble out of a PC in my life.
Neither is my computer guy. I'm sure I said this on one of the other shows. I asked him, have you ever had a PC that has required more finagling than this one? Absolutely not, he said. By far and away the most finicky, the most fussy, the most fiddled with. He said the only other customer I could think of was a customer that was fiddling where he shouldn't be. And I built the computer originally, and after a lot of faff, replaced literally every component in the computer. And he still had the same problems, which tells me, and I said it before he did, faulty customer. In this instance, it's like you can call me a faulty customer when I'd be just sat out like this and then both screens would go black. It's not like I'm running a game. It's not like I'm stress testing. It's not like I'm doing anything out of the ordinary. Both screens have gone black. And when Craig came over, I knew I could force it to do it if I did run it under load for an hour. But it didn't seem to matter. It didn't matter if it was or wasn't under load. It would just black screen. So, fortunately he got to see that and diagnose it right down to putting a new BIOS on it, new Windows on it, fresh install of everything, reinstall of a slightly older version of the drivers in Windows safe mode, having removed all the old ones completely. You can't do anything else to diagnose these sorts of things. And how I would have never figured all that stuff out. Craig did it all while I was sat watching him, making him cups of coffee for 4 hours, just to get to the point where it's like, right, we've done all that now. Everything's on clean. It could not possibly be anything driver related whatsoever. If it still throws a driver error, it's hardware. The driver's controlling the hardware. So if it's still giving that error, it can't be a fresh Windows install with a fresh driver install and nothing else on the system. If it still does it, it's the hardware. It did. It is. Since replacing it, it doesn't. It hasn't black screened since a new card went in. What else can you say?
That's a painful process of elimination.
Hell yeah. And with a finicky PC where you think it could be anything because you've had non-stop problems with it, your intuition doesn't say it's the new card you've just put in. It says it's the finicky PC that's been giving you problems for ages. Let's change the CPU voltage. Let's see if it's the RAM again. Because why would it possibly be a brand new card that you've just put in? About to go live, and I haven't really done a few button presses, so I better do that now.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Very serious welcome from you there, John. Hello, Armin.
All business.
Hello.
All business.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good
How's my
afternoon.
sound?
Yeah, all good, Armin. Very good.
All right.
Oh, we've got a bit of Righteous Force joining us as well. We're going to do a bit of housekeeping. Why not? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I don't see it right now, so as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nope. So the question is, what is the container in the globe Earth model? Is it gravity? How would it be gravity? What is gravity in order for it to be a container? Find out all these answers to these
All this and
complicated
more.
questions. Never.
No, I mean, it depends who you ask. If you're asking just some numpty on the street who's trying to give you an answer to the question, how can you have gas pressure without a container, then they might assert gravity. But in terms of the pseudo-Riemannian force-space-time bending, that isn't going to create containment and violate the second law of thermodynamics. It's merely a conception in a pseudo-geometry, as opposed to a force that can hold gas in a sphere shape around a ball flying through a vacuum that's been derived from a flat plane measurement. I'm going to have
You always have to do that, don't you?
Divergent Droid from the chat. Can you let me know? Is this a video we're supposed to be covering? You got fraud alert and then something about science. Something weird happens when you keep squeezing. Is that something you wanted us to cover? Because I'm more than happy to. Please let me know from the chat with a little yes, if you were hoping we would cover that. Or a no, that's actually pornography. Please don't play it on a live stream. Or whatever.
What?
Just let me know if you would, Divergent Droid. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Only if you use
That's
curved triangles.
Two of you.
That seems to be the. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that seems to be the question. That if you think about it and understand what an angle is and what an elevation angle means, you can't be a heliocentrist anymore if you understand that.
But can't you actually take those angles measurements using curved triangles if the curve of the triangle is specifically attuned to the radial system of globe Earth?
No,
Why not?
because triangles are angles, straight lines meeting at vertices. That's not something that you described when saying, can you take spherical triangles? No, that's an oxymoron. Curved lines meeting at a vertex point isn't an angle.
Yeah, but it's still called a triangle.
I don't care. You can call a fish anything you like, but it's still a fish. Any evidence of a
Maybe.
physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
You moved on a little quickly there. I thought I had a really good point.
What, did you? Anybody else feel
curved
Arwen had a
system.
really good point there?
Yes, Baldwin had a really good point there. I mean, if it's all based right off a flat plane and then curving it around a virtual ball mathematically, well, if they've done that, wouldn't you be able to measure said curved ball using the same tactic? It's all just warping that flat plane. So if you're going to measure it, you just measure it in a way so that you could basically unwarp it again into a flat plane. So you could just take the curved triangle after the sphericized flat plane, right?
Let me just check that I understand what you're asking. Are you suggesting that upon acquisition of, say, an elevation angle measurement to Polaris, let's say we're going to derive an equator, you're saying that we can take that flat Earth elevation angle measurement, derive that flat plane, call it the equatorial plane for the sake of this discussion, and then take a radial value to make a spherical surface, and the points that we measured with respect to Polaris can be wrapped around from the top point of the ball down to the equator as a curved line. Correct? And therefore, because it's converted from an originally flat plane measurement of an angle to a now curved non-angle, you can say that it works because you can always convert it back to flat to get it to be an angle again. Is that what you're suggesting, Arwen?
Yes, exactly. Now you're getting it.
But that is exactly what they do to convince people that the in-between stage of bending it and then bending it back again makes the world a ball. That's exactly what they do.
We win.
Well, there's one way of taking you through many different steps so you miss the reification fallacy and neglect the fact that you're actually measuring in the middle of a ball if you want to take reference to the plane that is required, so that you can infer that the reification from the required surface plane that got you an R value to say that you're now stood on top of the protractor you measured with, but also actually referencing a plane in hell. You can do that without realizing that is what you are precisely doing, so that you can infer you're standing on a surface of a protractor at radius 3959 miles. You can, but it doesn't make the surface that protractor, and it still requires a flat plane measurement in the first instance. So Earth is flat to get the measurement, to say that you can bend the measurement, to say it's a ball because you can bend it back to being flat to get it to work. Yeah, that's what they do.
I'm so happy, Nathan, that you finally roll it out exactly like how it's supposed to be, because, I mean, as a baller, I love that flat plane, because thanks to that flat plane, I can make that flat plane into a ball. If it weren't a flat plane, I wouldn't know how to make the Earth into a ball. Okay? I'm just so grateful that God designed the Earth to be a flat plane so I can imagine it into a ball.
Yeah, well, yes. What you're saying is there is a wondrous magic trick that you now know, and as a result, you can see how they turned a flat plane that Earth must be into a ball for people to reify, and how wonderful it is to know how they do that. I would agree. We are advanced heliocentrists in that regard.
It is miraculous that it works that way. Now, also, just that realization, if it weren't a flat plane, they wouldn't be able to do this. It's
Correct.
really magical.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, this is semi-appropriate because of the discussion in the pre-show, which I might have to echo now, simply because it does dovetail into the Divergent Droid video that we'll be covering shortly, and we'll get you to, if you're a live audience member, go and let this person know, etc., etc. But in the last few days, Refracted Curvature has been attempting to make contact with Jaren off the back of a request for a Flat Earth debate panel member to join Debateism and debate a guest on Globe Earth, I assume. Nevertheless, Refracted Curvature has responded to this call to action and is now in the wrangle-dangle of, well, he doesn't really want to be on camera. I'm sure that won't be a big issue for Jaren. But in any event, he has asked Jaren, that is for four, I believe, claims to be put forth. And they were discussed in the pre-show. If you're a member, check it out after the live show finishes. Or when I've uploaded it, I should say. Or in a couple of days, if you're not, check out my second channel. You don't have to be a member to watch these videos or pre-shows in this instance. You can just watch them 2 or 3 days later on the second channel. So subscribe today to that. But that's my segue, John, into maybe reiterating the conversation we had in the pre-show. It's up to you how you take this, really. We'll segue into the video after you let the audience know about your communication with Jaren.
Yeah, he's wanting four claims and 3 questions, and whereas we're not, we only have axioms and definitions. We're not really making claims. I've come up with the idea to point out, that they need the flat plane more than someone who believes the Earth's flat does, and that all of their claims will be preceded by a flat Earth measurement.
This has become a very quotable thing for me. So, in one of the shows, I released it recently that said, I can't remember the title now, something like Gravity Needs a Flat Earth, or something like that. You'll need a flat Earth for gravity, something to that effect. Orbits, that was it. You'll need a flat Earth for that orbit, is the name of the video. There's 3 different versions. One's like a double feature where there's 2 of these numpties that came in that you utilize the flat plane to make orbital claims. And the other is a 10-minute shortened version with just the second guy, and then there's a 2-minute shortened clip as well. So whatever your flavour of length of video, there's one out there, roughly titled Orbits Needs a Flat Earth. And in the process of discussing that exact fact, that an orbital claim will require a flat Earth to reference in the first instance to give you angles to make your orbital claims and reify Earth as a sphere. When pointing this out to a numpty who was doing just that, in his exasperation, John said, "You guys need a flat plane more than we do!" End quote, Refracted Curvature. And since then, I must have used it more than a dozen times in comment responses when someone comes along and asks me, for example, as stated in the pre-show, why do longitude lines converge? How do you explain that? Why do they converge after the equator? I think was the exact phraseology of the question that got put to me in one of these comments. just today, the one I can remember at least. And my response was, you'll need a flat plane for that equator, quote, you guys need the flat plane more than we do, end quote. Because why? He's making an equatorial plane-based claim. That's what he's doing. Now, are we doing that? Are we going out making these claims? No. We make statements of fact about how they're utilised. That's not a claim. The equatorial plane is factually used. In terms of navigation, angles are acquired from a flat baseline. These aren't claims. They're statements of fact. So when you come to someone saying, well, there's orbits, and now there's a claim, that'll need a flat Earth. Because they need it more than we do. So in terms of a potential claim that John can put forward, claim one, you guys need a flat plane more than we do. Anyway, on that note, with hopefully some, I don't know what will happen between John and whoever ends up debating him on Debatism, more power to them. I wish you every luck. You're going to need it. Ah, dear. I'm going to have to clear my throat, bear with me.
Well, just real quick, I was trying to get it in there. The idea, I guess, now is it seems as if I'll be putting my opponent on trial. Is the only way I can, like QE pointed out, there's nothing to debate. All we can do now is put them on trial. That is a form of debate. So pretty much it'll be accusations.
Yeah, as it should be. For the people who are going to be in this arena, they should know better. Shouldn't they?
Yeah. At this point, there's no excuse really. With the amount of information out there, that there's no excuse for it.
Yeah. So at this point, you put them on trial for fraud. Why wouldn't you? I completely agree. I didn't know that was quantum racist sentiment until now, but I absolutely agree. It's no longer a case of debate and discussion. Earth's flat, it's measured that way, it's utilised that way, it's navigated that way, it's obviously and observably flat. So what do you want? You want a claim? No, that's how the world is being dealt with. That's not a claim. That's a statement of fact that I do not need to defend.
Right. And it's not even just the measurable, observable world. It's also the globe model. Like, there's no globe model without the world being flat.
Exactly. Anyway, that's going to be, this is going to be the most useless segue there's ever been. But Jaron and I were discussing something slightly different, which was scientific method. And I made an analogy yesterday in the after show, which was akin to a jury trial, where everybody understands that to be claimed guilty of a crime, you would go through a jury trial. We're going to say in simplistic terms that you appreciate guilty man means jury trial. Now, if you then take Judge Dredd as an example, and Judge Dredd comes along, I am the law, and just chucks you in jail, no trial, no jury, no due process. Just a, quote, judge who decides you are guilty and throws you in jail. Now, at that point, you, the observer of this goings-on, no, in the scenario, I had you being thrown in jail, a third party watching you get thrown in jail by Judge Dredd says, did this man, now in jail, guilty, go through due process and have a jury trial? And everyone around says, well, the Judge Dredd in this example, does actually represent exactly that. He's the representation of a jury trial. He's a judge. Therefore, I'm going to go with, yeah, he did have a jury trial. He represents the law. Law is jury trial. He is the law. Therefore, he had a jury trial. And then one person in the crowd, me, says, no, he didn't have a jury trial. He hasn't been definitively found guilty. And Jaron in the crowd says, we should attack jury trials. and the methodology of jury trials. And you go, no. They haven't followed a jury trial process. He just got bunged in jail by Judge Dredd. There was no jury trial. We've been lied to by jury trials, says Jaron. Okay, that's my analogy. That's the equivalent of scientific method being the equivalent to jury trial. And somebody comes along, Mr. Science instead of Judge Dredd, and says, I am the science. And everyone goes, this man said he is the science. Does that mean he's followed the method? And everyone around goes, well, he said he's science. Science is the method. Therefore, he has followed the method. Yes. I poke my head up and go, no. He didn't do a jury trial. I mean, he didn't follow the scientific method. And Jaron turns around from the other side of the crowd and says, oi, scammer, we need to attack the scientific method. That's what has actually gone down. So upon pointing out that the charlatan's not adhering to the method and claiming they've got science, that would be the textbook definition of pseudoscience, and a claim of science that has not been through the method, that's pseudoscience. But instead of attacking the pseudoscience charlatan fraudsters who claim science, we're attacking science as a method. We're attacking science itself, calling science a joke and a fraud. And people who claim it can prove things, that would be us, con artists and fraudsters and scammers. That's what's actually occurring. So, with the Judge Dredd example in tow, me calling out Judge Dredd as not putting through his victims, let's call them, through jury trials, everyone around is being told by someone on our own side, in this case Jaron, we need to attack jury trials, or in this case the scientific method, rather than the scammers and liars who claim to have science, aka jury trial, when they haven't got one. We don't attack the jury trial, we don't attack the scientific method, we attack the scammers and fraudsters who claim to have used it when they haven't. That's where we're at with this particular discussion between Jaron and myself, where I've spent now several years trying to appeal to him and some of his compadres to understand the power of science in terms of proving things, which is all it does. So, we've been provided, with that being all said, a video by Divergent Droid, who is a fantastic moderator. If you're a mod and you've got a mod status on someone's YouTube channel, watch Divergent Droid and emulate everything he does, and you will be a good mod too. Anyway, this is Vox, so check him out. Go and let them know if you're in the live stream right now, or if you happen to be watching after the fact on a member stream, or if you're watching on the second channel, Nathan Oakley channel, subscribe today. In a few days' time, do the same. Just one of the mods will put a link if it's a premiering stream, live stream, or if it's in the comments, whatever. Go and let Vox know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Just leave him a positive comment. You know, we responded to your video, something like that. The idea being that were Vox to respond to us with his 11 million subscribers, he would put a link to us at Flat Earth Debate / Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, so that we could receive some algorithmic love from YouTube where we typically receive none. Quite the contrary, we are shoved to the bottom of the lists, and our anti-Flat Earth counterparts are shoved to the top, if you are to search for this subject matter. Anyway, hopefully he'd put a link to me, like I've put a link to him. Go and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. You can see there is a link to his channel going by in the chat. What are you still doing here? 75, 80, 81 people watching. You need to be over there now. We'll still be yabbering on about him when you get back. But just leave him a positive comment, help him in the algorithm, like we would hope to be helped. Hopefully those people who have disappeared temporarily will be back. Can we have a little chit-chat just while they're doing that, gentlemen? And then we'll go on to actually responding to his video. Yes, Nathan, we're keen to chat to you. Oh, well, that's good, because I need a bit of filler while people have disappeared. Glad you all rushed off mute.
Well, right. If anybody has any suggestions or an accusation that needs to be put forth against anyone defending the ball at this point, put them in the comments, and I'll try to look over them to see if there's anything I can work with or will use.
If you want to market something like accusations or claims for refracted curvature or something that addresses the fact that it's for an eye over by John, and hopefully, like I say, make some suggestions of accusations you want to put to any baller that has approached you. I don't know how this will work by stereotype, but we'll see how John divulges the information to his opponent if necessary. But obviously, John is looking for some ideas in this regard. Hopefully you can help him out as an audience. We shall see. And hopefully that's been enough filler for people to have come back having left a comment and said at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me on Vox's video. So let's get into this. Anybody familiar with this guy, Vox? No? Okay, let's do it.
Full of water.
It's very loud. Let's just turn him down a little bit. Try that.
Closed off this end so it can't escape. And no matter how hard I push, nothing really happens. I can't compress it. Even if I
What's he saying? You can't compress air very much. Wow, okay.
put this inside an industrial hydraulic press, a machine that can push down with thousands of tons of force, the volume would only decrease by about 1%.
Okay.
But what if it was squeezed even harder? What if this water was subjected to the extreme pressures in the Earth's core?
Molten iron core isn't something that's real. So the idea of having a molten iron core is derived from an equatorial plane and measurements of angles to stars that are represented over the equatorial plane in a dome. Now, that dome of, let's call it your perspective of the stars, as positions are mapped out from a polar-centric or North Pole-centric equatorial plane-based system, you can reify the radial value taken at the equatorial minimum, angle to Polaris, and call it a sphere based on that same radius, and then infer that at the centre of said sphere reified from a flat plane measurement, there is a molten iron core. Why would there be a molten iron core? Well, given that in the rhetoric it's too long for us to have a core based on their timeline for their reified spheres based on flat Earth angle measurements. Well, their story with a core that's already cooled down has an addition of a different planet also reified into an orbital motion taken from a flat Earth, smashing into it and leaving its molten iron core alongside the Earth's molten iron core and the debris forming the moon. That planet on a collision course with the fledgling Earth when reifying flat plane elevation angle measurements to Polaris into an equatorial plane to give you a radial value to turn into a sphere to reify into planets to have Thea smash into Earth to deposit this core for this man to reify. That doesn't mean we have a core. It would violate the flat Earth measurement that is used to infer it. It's utterly absurd, Vox. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, he's talking about water, which is an incompressible fluid, and trying to compress an incompressible fluid. I don't see where he's going with this at all.
One of those crazy questions like you get in cartoons. What happens if an unstoppable force meets an immovable object?
Yeah, it seems to be where he's heading. Yeah.
Or inside the sun.
Right, inside the sun. The light that we see in the sky. What is it? Why would you infer that it has an inside? I don't really understand why this reification's continuing, but we've already explained how all of this description of a heliocentric orbital motion and a sun being spherical and an Earth being spherical is all derived from measurements taken off a flat plane. Anybody got any physical evidence of a three-dimensional sun?
That's hilarious. No. No,
Why
it's
is
just
he-
the light in the sky. It's really bright. You know? We got angles based off it, with shadows and all that. That's it. There's no proof any of it is 3D.
Okay.
But there are these elaborate animations, though, they made even a long time ago. 3D rendered sun and all that. It's been around for ages.
Yeah, but the sun that we experience in the sky, is there any actual demonstrable evidence of three-dimensionality for that item?
Solar flares. Solar flares.
Yeah, I've seen solar flares. What about them? Is that something that you've
What is
seen
it?
three-dimensionally occurring in binocular vision? Or is it something that's been observed through a telescope?
I don't know, but they always show these globe animations with the magnetic field around the globe, and then this flare thing coming off the ball sun out of the distance. That's always the thing they show. I don't know what the hell a supposed solar flare is. I have no idea.
Well, we have no idea if it obeys any geometry, terrestrial. Like, we only understand what we can touch tangibly, terrestrially on this plane. We don't understand what the stars and the sun and the moon are, or how they work.
Right. So maybe a solar flare is just an unexpected output difference of the light and energy of the sun, right? There's all these different frequencies of light coming off it. And there is apparently like momentary aberrant output. And maybe that is what they call a solar flare, when the output just suddenly becomes really unexpected and it screws with the electrical devices and all that.
Fascinating. Any evidence of its three-dimensionality to infer this core or center that this gentleman has inferred in this particular clip?
No. But the only thing in 3D relation is the 3D model of globe Earth that they show when they make the claim about it.
Okay, that'll be a no then. Any other comments? Were you trying to get something in there, John?
What would happen to it? The answer is something really bizarre, something physicists are just starting to understand.
In many ways, this is really a new field.
We just don't fully know the rules yet.
What? Rules? These are physicists, aren't they? What the hell? We don't really know. We don't know the rules. Okay. Well, you're trying to establish a cause and effect relationship, presumably through scientific method. If you're claiming to be a physicist, that's physics, right? That's the scientific method, physical and natural world, natural phenomena. We don't really know the rules. What rules?
Well, I think they mean theoretical physicist, as
that's
in
going to be a problem,
not
isn't it?
actually a physicist.
Oh, right. You mean frauds? I mean frauds, claiming science where they don't have any. Relabeling fraud, theoretical physics.
An entirely new regime of matter.
To try and wrap our heads around these extreme pressures and the way they warp physics as we know it, let's go.
Sorry, what extreme pressures? The hypothetical pressures you exerted on those fluids when you put them into a giant compression chamber and then compared it to the forces at the center of a reified sphere Earth taken from flat Earth angle measurements. Those forces. It seems like we've gone from the hypothetical to the real quick, haven't we?
Sorry. They try to simulate their idea of what they believe should be there based on what a bunch of mathematicians just told them based on calculations, right? And so they're trying to emulate that thing so they get a better understanding at how the concept of globe Earth and its claims would work. That's really what's happening.
Yeah, but how he's phrasing it is that is real, isn't he? Go on, whoever said that. John.
But he's already stated that we're not able to compress it any more than it already is. But what if we could? What?
Exactly.
It's called an incompressible fluid for a reason. Like, this is insane.
And then he's going on to say, now that we've got that compression that I need to make my example at the center of a place you can't go that I've reified from a measurement from a flat plane, let's progress.
On a journey straight down.
Yeah, how do you get down without a vertical axis with respect to the horizontal plane?
Yes, indeed. So we've got this little interesting discussion going on in Master B at the moment between Ruhif and various different protagonists of Flat Earth debate. who have intervened between a discussion with Tinfoil Hat Man, who's being asked about his height above sea level. Now, as was the case in, I'm going to call it 2016, when we argued about the Isle of Man, the main red herring discussion point was the height of the observer, in that case Anthony Riley. And that got many an hour of whiling away the discussion points into obscurity and non-proof of anything. It was wonderful times for the ballers. Meanwhile, you will need a flat plane of reference to assert a vertical for the height that they are arguing about. So what's that? How high he is above the sea level? The horizontal reference plane? You're going to need a flat earth to argue about his height. Right, John?
Yes, as it relates to sea level, absolutely.
Right. Seems so obvious in 2023. Sea level. Horizontal reference plane.
We'll start our trip.
Not science. Science explained. What? This will not be science. So, straight off the bat, Vox. You might have had a few people send you my way. You're not going to like what I've got to say. You're a fraud. You're a pseudo-science pretender clown. Nothing that these, quote, physicists will offer will be science. Straight away, we haven't even had him say it yet. It's in the subtitles, right? Atmospheric pressure. Atmo, that means air. Spheric, that means sphere-shaped. So we're going to be detailing oxymoron sphere-shaped atmo? No, this isn't science. You're a fraud, Vox.
Up here on the surface of
even worse
atmosphere.
than-
Again?
Oh, I was going to say, and even worse than that, you're going to detail your atmospheric pressure from sea level. So it's possible you may be a double fraud if you understand what sea level is.
If you're going to give a vertical reference of how high, in terms of the atmospheric differential, or anything to do with atmosphere, then you're going to give it with reference to the horizontal. It's a vertical description. So you're going to need a flat plane.
Pressure. How much pressure is that exactly? How does it compare to, say, the pressure of my phone on my palm? Well, the phone's weight, about 2 newtons, is spread out over about 100 square centimeters.
Hold on a second. The phone is only going to go downwards, though, isn't it? It's more dense than the air that it's been pulled up through. It's been put into disequilibrium when you put it on your hand. Yeah, you're holding it in disequilibrium or fall arrest. But you're describing a pressure. Oh, obviously. This is the bait and switch into a downward bias only. What about the air pressure that was pressing up on the bottom half of your hand, underneath the phone, underneath your hand? Was that going down? Is that how this is going to be qualified? I wonder if the very air itself, the atmo, will be ignored in terms of how that behaves, because that ain't going down like your phone.
That's how pressure is measured, a force distributed over an area.
Why is your force over an area pointing downwards? I mean, gas exerts its force equally in all directions. So when you say pressure equals force over area, why have we only got a very specific, bigger than every bit of text, downward arrow? I'm afraid not, mate. You're already making a huge blunder, because it's over any area in any direction when talking about atmo, which you very specifically are. Oh, my bad. Atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, oxymoron. Does that only have a downward bias? Does gas only go down, go boom, boom? No, it doesn't behave like that, but it will in this description, won't it? I wonder. We'll find out if gas goes down, go boom, boom a bit later. If it doesn't come up, we'll reiterate it.
The pressure of the atmosphere, the hundreds of miles of air.
Sorry, I wondered if it would come up. It came up in the next breath. So are these clouds pushing downwards? What about all the air above it? Is that pushing downwards? Is it falling down? Is it been poured in from the sky vacuum? to go down, go boom, boom? Or is it expanding equally in all directions? In fact, in terms of these clouds, CGI though they are, they would have been created at ground level by way of phase change with liquid water. So the gas that was created had to very much go upwards in order to generate this next image. And yet, even though the clouds most assuredly aren't going down, you've given this with a depiction of a downward arrow pointing towards a flat plane. Notice the flat plane in this. Hope you're all watching on the live stream. But is downward arrow was in reference to a flat plane also. Did you notice? What's this?
Yeah, that's what I've been ready to say. You don't get down in a vertical aspect without a horizontal plane of reference. What are they even talking about at this point?
So, in order to assert gravity, that would be if you're taking a Newtonian mass-attracting mass stance on Earth with a force of gravity holding you to it and making gas go down, go boom, boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls, a la Thunderfoot Clown, then you're going to need a horizontal plane of reference to give you this vertical orientation. So a flat Earth's required for you down, even though gas absolutely unequivocally does not behave that way. And the next shot is going to cut two clouds, which most definitely aren't going down, go boom, boom.
The hundreds of miles of air above me pulled down by Earth's gravity.
Really? You think those clouds were pulled down when the phase change at ground level sent the gas up? Are you idiotic, Vox? Did somebody pour in the water vapour from space? Is that what you think happens? Gas go down, go boom, boom. I mean, there was me thinking that I should reiterate this at a later stage because it won't get covered. And literally in the next 5 sentences, he's asserting that gas go down, go boom, boom like Thunderfoot. Oh my God, Vox. Do you really think clouds get poured in from space? You've never seen a cup of hot tea evaporating. Where do you think it's going? Do you think it's falling down, go boom, boom, forming puddles? Is that what's happening? Big down arrow with the steam coming off your hot drink? You utter clown. No, you're a fraud, Vox. You're telling reasonably sane people, that would be your audience. I can only assume there's a reasonable number of sane people in that 11.5 or whatever it is million subscribers that you've got. You're telling a reasonably sane-minded group of people that clouds have a downward arrow pointing towards them because they're going down with gravity. When anybody can observe liquid water turning into a gas and most assuredly not going down and forming puddles. This is stupid. You are stupid. And the reason you are stupid is because you are a globe believer. Therefore, you believe in this fantasy of gravity. Making gas go down, go boom, boom. Like Thunderfoot, the idiot who also asserts this with demonstrations of bouncy balls poured into fish tanks to assert that gas go down, go boom, boom, just like the bouncy balls do, when gas expands in all directions.
It's 500 times stronger. That's like the pressure my phone would exert on my palm if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was balancing on top of it.
Really? And yet, you can watch water vapor go up. This is all biased towards the downward effect. When, is it just me, or is even the cartoon in violation of this stupid nonsense you're asserting? The clouds aren't down. These aren't puddles. These are up. Do you see my mouse pointer? Which way is it pointing at these clouds? Did they get poured in from above, or did they come from all this water? So which way did they go when the water turned into the clouds? Did it go down like The Rock? Or are you a fraud, Vox? It's definitely the latter. You are a fraud. Gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls, as asserted by Thunderfoot Clown, who is also a fraud.
But because the air is free to flow around,
So not going down then?
it's also pushing up.
The Rock!
with the same pressure.
So let me get it straight. It's going down, go boom, boom with the force of the rock, but also going up at the same pressure, negating everything you've just detailed. What kind of doublespeak is this?
Every foam-sized patch of my body is getting pressed inward by the equivalent of the rock's weight. Of course, all the structures and fluids within my body are pressing back, and I'm so used to this equilibrium that I don't...
So what you're saying is the gas pushes in all directions, right? Well, given that you've just described how gas exerts its force in all directions, your heliocentric world with a molten iron core set in a sky vacuum would leave us all dead. Because the gas, which you, in this instance, accurately detail as pressing in all directions, would vacate into the area of volume you think is a sky vacuum. It isn't. We'd all be dead. There is no outer space. Outer space is fake. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation to assert that gas can maintain pressure around a sphere surface in a vacuum? Absurd. No, gas expands in all directions. If the sky was a vacuum, where this story you're telling takes place, then the gas we breathe would fill the space, in line with entropic law. That would be the second law of thermodynamics. Dispersion.
don't even notice. Before we leave these familiar conditions, I'm going to grab a few things to take with us. A gram of hydrogen, a gram of sodium, and a kilo of water.
Why? I guess we'll find out. After saying hello to Chocolate. Hello, Chocolate.
I'll tell you why. He's getting ready to take actual physical things we can experience in the real world and quantify. He's going to take them to Narnia and talk about how these real things act in Narnia.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Will Narnia be derived from a flat plane measurement and elevation angle measurements to the stars?
Yes, that is how they come up with the story of Narnia. Yes.
So they will need a flat Earth to assert that there is an area of volume violating the second law of thermodynamics above our head known as outer space, a space that gas could fill in line with entropic law. When we go to said violation of natural law, he will describe how these things behave in that said second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum known as outer space that isn't real. I see. And he'll do that by using a flat plane measurement to derive this fantasy. Interesting.
We know exactly how these substances behave on...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, the celestial sphere is where they derive these fantasies from, which is a flat plane model. And they apply astronomical distances based off angle measurements from that flat plane. So, yeah, their Narnia that they've created is based off of, they need a flat Earth more than we do. Yeah.
On Earth's surface. But what happens when we start to squeeze? Just 10 meters of seawater adds another whole atmosphere worth of pressure.
Isn't that an interesting terminology? When you go under the water, which is as bonded as it can be, you're telling me that you experience one atmosphere for every distance that you travel. Okay, so atmo, that's air. So you experience an air sphere of pressure in water. I see, that's interesting. As it displaces the air and therefore would be at the bottom of whatever we're describing. I mean, phase change of gas notwithstanding, going up to form clouds.
27 floors down, we pass the unassisted diving record. And just a little deeper, we hit 10 atmospheres. Now we're going deeper than the deepest scuba dive.
Why are we doing this? Just for a false equivalent?
There's a blobfish. They look like depressed jello on the surface, but
Sorry, interesting trivia to throw into this false equivalent, maybe?
down here, the pressure keeps them trim. 1 kilometer down, we reach 100 atmospheres, the kinds of pressures we got with that giant hydraulic press.
Which hydraulic press? The one in the cartoon? Or the one at the centre of a molten iron Earth based from a flat plane measurement? Which one?
Sperm whales can dive this deep, and their hinged rib cages fold
When are we going to get to the reification and false equivalence?
inward so the bones won't snap. Here, the Titan submersible was crushed. And here is the destination they never reached.
And here is a man exploding outwards in a vacuum. Watch as the pressure inside his lungs forces outside of his ears. What's this got to do with anything?
Somehow we're still passing fish. And now we've reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench and 1,000 atmospheres.
Yeah, atmospheres as opposed to a depth that would actually reference sea level.
We're now up to the pressure of a phone with a herd of elephants balanced on top.
Maybe that's why it is. If you're going to assert the pressure and give it a per inch value, why not throw in a sphere there or here?
Let's check in on the samples we brought. Our balloon of hydrogen gas has shrunk down to the size of a big marble, but both our solid sodium and liquid water haven't changed much. They're just barely compressed. Why is that? Well, the molecules of hydrogen had plenty of space between them, room to shrink, but the sodium and water were already tightly packed.
So we've got stuff going down and being shrinked and shrunk. Okay. But what about how gas behaves? You know, it doesn't compress when it's in pressure or higher or lower pressure. It's always unbonded and always following whatever vector it follows until it collides with something, either another gas particle or the walls of a container.
Even the pressure down here can't overcome the electrostatic repulsion between molecules. It's nowhere near strong enough. But let's keep going.
What about the unbonded gas? Right? They don't have any intermolecular bonds at all. Why is this comparison even being made?
Every meter of
this
rock.
next step will be into Narnia.
Sorry, one more time, John.
This next step will be into Narnia. That's what he's been setting you up for. This next step is into the Narnia.
Okay.
Rock piles on the pressure nearly 3 times faster than water. The temperature is rising too. As we leave the crust, we hit 10,000 atmospheres. In the mantle, temperatures shoot past 1,000 degrees Celsius, and some
None of this has ever been proven to be the case. So we have dug 8 miles. That's it. And the predictions that were made for that dig were wrong. The materials they encountered were not the materials they anticipated. But you want to tell us what's at these depths, way beyond what has actually been explored, with an inference of a sphericity that's come from a flat plane measurement. I mean, this is so far beyond absurd. Good choice, Divergent Droid. I love stuff that covers the molten iron core because it's totally absurd.
some of the rock starts to melt. This is where mini diamonds form. Carbon
Are they? Says who? Have you been down there? Have you seen them being produced? How the hell would you know?
is squeezed into a tight crystal.
Are they?
As we go deeper into 100,000 atmospheres of pressure, the rock is
Says who? As qualified by what? As proven by what?
compressed further, forced back into its solid form.
This is just one long, baseless assertion.
Our sodium, meanwhile, has melted, and our bubble of hydrogen is liquid too, compressed into a little clear globule. The water is also changing. It's getting squashed so much it's forced to become a solid, but not the hexagonal crystals we get on the surface. Instead, it's a tighter cubic lattice. Scientists have found this variation of ice, Ice 7,
Again, John, you say we're going to take it into Narnia. I think we're already there. We're in the middle of the molten iron core at this point.
trapped inside diamonds.
Yes, that.
As we get close to Earth's core, we pass 1 million atmospheres. That's the equivalent of an oil tanker balanced on a phone. This is the threshold. We're now leaving the world that physicists fully understand.
We never entered a world that physics deals with, full stop. So what do you mean we're leaving a world that physics understands? Physics is the study of the physical and natural world. It establishes it through a method, well established. It establishes the cause of an effect you are studying. And that is the only reason to employ this method, to elucidate cause of an effect you're studying in nature. When you say, well, this is beyond where we understand, no, you breach that at 8 miles.
This is where the external forces are about the same and
About the same. Very technical for somewhere you've never been and have never measured, and neither has anybody else. About the same.
starting to overwhelm the internal forces.
As demonstrated by what? As proven by what? As evidenced by what? Oh, this cartoon! Oh, let's see the evidence.
Crushing pressure is starting to overcome the electromagnetic forces holding water molecules apart and
In Narnia.
maintaining their shape.
The behavior that comes out of being in these extreme conditions is
What extreme conditions? The hypothetical ones that nobody has experienced ever, have never been experienced ever, aren't experienceable, but are described with respect to a flat plane measurement reified into a sphere to give you a molten iron core based on a planet called Thea smashing into us in an orbital motion that couldn't possibly be physical, because the idea of that physical motion comes from a flat plane measurement that stops the Earth being spherical and moving around the sun.
pretty bizarre.
How do you study matter under conditions that
You don't. You haven't.
normally only exist deep inside the Earth?
So do they exist deep inside? You validated that. How can we study these conditions we don't know exist when they only exist in places we haven't experienced them, but we know they do exist there? My friend, you're a fraud.
That was the point of creating the Center for Matter at Atomic Pressure.
What, to give you a job and pay you money? You bearded old wanker. Yeah, that's all this is for, to give you a job.
We're going to be doing all the fundamental physics.
And getting paid lots and lots and lots of money. That's why your hand's out. Yeah? For all the wonga that's coming your way, for all this fundamental physics that you're going to be doing? No, you won't, you fraud. You won't be doing any physics. You will not study the physical and natural world in Narnia. That's not the physical and natural world at these depths you claim are in a sphere-shaped Earth that's been reified into existence after measuring a flat plane. So no, your money that you've been paid, you conned out of everybody. That's all you're interested in. That's all this serves. You with cash. It doesn't give us anything other than the ability to call you a fraudster, which you are.
To be able to understand matter under these really different kinds of conditions.
Which conditions would those be? The ones that nobody's ever experienced and you've reified into existence after measuring a flat plane and claiming that you stood on a sphere derived from those flat plane measurements you measured? No, my friend, definitely not.
Map is headquartered at the University of Rochester, and they've got a tool that helps them create extreme pressures.
Sorry, so the tool is the thing that's creating the circumstances then. So this is very much not in the realm of physics. You could basically, if you're lucky, stretch to classifying it as technology. You are inducing this pressure. This is not a natural phenomenon. This is not in the realms of physics. These people are charlatans. They want you to believe they're studying the natural world. That's why they called it physics. It isn't. They're inducing the effect they call physics. What, physical and natural world? Oh, what, when you create it? Scammers and charlatans bleeding the public dry of their money through these laboratories, through funding, through grants, through bearded wankers who get paid to come up with physics for places that aren't even in existence. And they get paid to research them. Pay me, I'll look into Narnia for you.
Enormous Omega EP laser that fills this giant room.
Sounds very natural.
This is the facility's schedule. Scientists from around the world queue up
Fruitful work with lots of people being paid.
for months just for a chance
Months and months of fruitful work to find out about the pressures in Narnia when they develop pressures with their machines, man-made experiences, not phenomena, not natural. I see.
blast a tiny sample of matter with a laser beam.
Sounds like that's developed so much useful technology. They are essentially 5-year-olds. They are blasting stuff with lasers. That is what they are actually doing. Now, you as an audience might not pick up on that very, very loose description of what is actually taking place in months of fruitful work to fire lasers at stuff. Little bits of matter and laser light, we're firing at it. Yeah, months of fruitful work. Why? Well, let me take you on a journey of imagination. First, we will measure a flat Earth and upon doing so, we will take the minimum elevation angle to Polaris to give us a radial value that will infer a sphere-shaped surface based on the flat one we just measured. Therein, we can take Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and orbital mechanics to infer said sphere, measured from a flat plane, is moving around the sun. And when it is doing so, it has a tremendous pressure in the centre of it, and we are going to study it. How? Well, by creating our own amazing pressures and firing lasers at stuff. It's really cool. We'll have a bearded guy, sounding intelligent, calling himself a scientist, and you'll all pay the money for it and thank us at the end. We may even tell you we found something. I know, God particle, something like that. We'll make it up. But you will love it, we will get paid, and we will discover what happens when you fire lasers at stuff. Very cool. Months of fruitful work.
And how do you feel in the run-up to this?
How does this bimbo feel? I could not give a toss about her feelings about the imaginary centre of Narnia.
Unbelievably nervous.
Why?
You've spent a year of planning.
Fruitful work planning. I bet that was expensive.
And crossing T's and dotting I's.
You got paid for crossing I's and dotting T's, did you? Is that what you got paid for? Right? Yeah, that's what they got paid for. They just spent a year crossing T's and dotting I's. That's what they did for a year. Sorry, why did anybody pay you to do that? Not even firing the lasers. The fruitful admin work that everyone had to be paid to do before firing lasers at stuff. Amazing.
Just to get to this point, the shot director gets on the intercom and he goes,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I mean, that's worth 100 grand a year, I would say.
Wait, well, hold on a minute. What does firing a laser at small chunks of matter have anything to do with what they were just talking about happening in Narnia?
It sounds very, very technical, John. I don't think you would understand. What did you do as a job again?
I'm an instrumentation technician, but like, what? I don't see the connection that they can even draw between what they claim is happening in Narnia and shooting a laser at a small piece of matter. It doesn't make sense.
Right, you just fill in the gaps.
Where's the laser inside the...
Sorry, I thought you were done. Go on.
Where's the laser in the molten iron core? What are they even talking about?
Should I just make it up for you? You're obviously too lazy to do it yourself. Fine. The laser is akin to really high pressure. When it hits something, it's creating an impact, and that makes a really high pressure. There you go. Done. And that's like the molten iron core.
Shot 39607 is now complete.
That was it. During that split second, million atmosphere pressures were momentarily created in the next room, the same pressures that exist deep within Earth.
As evidenced by, the flat plane measurement that gave you an equatorial plane to reify into a radial value at the centre of a sphere Earth at a place that you've never travelled. Even if Earth was spherical, you haven't gone down this deep to verify that there's any pressure at all. For all you know, there could be a completely empty void. You wouldn't know any of it because we don't. You don't. But yet you're telling us that you're doing this because there is an area of high pressure. All right. I'm sure this will take months of fruitful work, crossing T's and dotting I's. Somebody's going to get paid for doing that. There's a lot of admin that goes into this.
How does a beam of light do that? Let's go through it again, just way slower.
We listened and paid attention. Do we need this way slower? I'm pretty sure we kept up at the pace you were at. But however, doing it again, achieving nothing but slower, would chew up time that would definitely get a lot of people paid. We could call it dotting I's and crossing T's.
Bums.
Ads.
The laser beam is born in these machines down in the basement, and it's directed...
Very natural, very natural.
through a maze of
Science,
lenses
very, very natural.
and devices that shape and monitor it. Bouncing through these massive tubes, it's infused with more power until it's as wide as this opening, about 45 centimeters across.
Why? Oh yeah, of course, because there's massive pressures in the center of Narnia.
Then it races towards the target chamber, which is hidden behind this tangle of equipment.
This is a visual representation of the target chamber, and the target is right at the center of it. Those are really like a pinpoint.
So they made their target look like a globe, and the target that they're aiming for in the center of this globe that they use in their instrumentation is akin to, so that you can understand it, the pressures that they're reified into existence that they're also measuring. So basically, John, to answer your question, the laser pressure that's created at the center of this globe they put inside their machine is the same as the globe that's taken from a flat plane measurement. Science.
Point on the tip of the pen. Just
may God have mercy on their soul.
Exactly. But it was very nerve-wracking for the lady. We got to know about her feelings too. That was obviously very important.
absurdly small.
The target is a tiny inedible sandwich with a sample of whatever substance the researchers are interested in.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter because they haven't got the substance from Narnia, which is the claim to be studied area. Oh, my encoder's fallen on its arse. Oh, that'll have to be where I round out the live stream. Oh well, there won't be an outro on the live stream. Hopefully it'll recover. Let's see. No, it doesn't look like my
That was
encoder's
great.
going to recover. Very irritating.
I'm sorry, Nathan. That sucks, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
All that work.
Such is life. I'll just fiddle with it. Or I'll be going to a machinist on Friday and getting it all milled down. But yeah, it doesn't look like. I'll give it a few more seconds just to see if I can get. I have ended the live stream because that was how I figured out how to get it to recover last time, but it doesn't seem to be wanting to do it.
Well, if nothing else, that was entertaining by Vox. That there's a globe Earth laser creating magnificent pressures at the center of Earth that we didn't know about.
Right. Oh. It still says it's recording though, so I mean, should I just work on the assumption that the recording's fine? We'll carry on. Take a vote. Should we carry on the recording, or shall I assume that it's failing and this might be a complete waste of our time if we carry on for hours and hours?
I say roll with it. See what happens.
Okay, well, I'll roll up to the 2-hour mark. We've done an hour and a half thus far. Hopefully we can chit-chat with the Discord server. I won't cover the video because I'll carry on with it tomorrow. Although, how much is left? Let's just have a look. There's only a couple of minutes left, maybe, with the sponsorship or something. We'll see what he's got.
In the middle, the laser light is focused down to hit this first layer, which explodes into a superheated ionized gas.
And that plasma blows off of the surface like a rocket. That creates this buildup of pressure that forms a shock wave. And that
This is all stuff they actually do, to be fair.
shock wave really quickly travels through the material.
The last layer acts as a window, allowing the passage of electromagnetic rays generated during the experiment.
Not an experiment. So, again, fraud. No. Establishment of cause and effect based on naturally observed phenomena after formulating a hypothesis that's a scientific prediction, and then actualizing said hypothesis by putting it into an experiment. This isn't an experiment. You're bombarding stuff with lasers. That's not an experiment in the slightest.
And then surrounding it, you have these spaces to put different cameras and other tools that we use to measure the various things that we're interested in.
If you look through this porthole, you can see a couple of these sensors getting moved into place. In 2017, researchers put a tiny bit of Ice 7 sandwiched between two diamonds in the
Because
target chamber. As the
oh yeah, because he said diamonds were made in the center of Earth previously, didn't he? So therefore, diamonds. Narnia's got diamonds, so he put diamonds in.
shockwave passed through it. Pressure in the ice spiked above 2 million atmospheres, and its atoms rearranged. Oxygens formed a tight lattice, while hydrogens.
Do you think you guys can chat amongst yourselves, and I'll see if I can reschedule a stream for the members?
Yeah. If anybody else is willing to talk. Is anybody else there?
Arwin, can you chat with John just while I reschedule another stream for the members? Clearly not.
I could see why everybody walked away in that Vox video. That had to be the biggest waste of time. At no point was there ever a coherent point made. Everyone who heard it is now dumber for having listened to it. I award them no points, and may God have mercy on their soul. And that's a synopsis
So I just
as best as Billy Madison can give it.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. So I just
Hello.
left a comment over there that Nathan Oakley is reviewing the video, and it was removed in less than a minute.
You what? Sorry.
And I replied, I left a comment over there on their video that you're reviewing their video, and it disappeared in less than a minute. And I also replied to a few people personally the same message. Nathan Oakley is reviewing your video, because somebody said thanks for entertainment and physics and all that, and I replied to them that Nathan Oakley 1980 is reviewing your video. Check it out if you care about the truth and physics and not entertainment, something like that. So that comment is still not deleted. But my first comment that was left on the comment thread was deleted in less than a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
It might be that they
But
have an
I only caught the end
algorithm
of the show.
for yeah, it might be that Nathan Oakley's name might be flagged as a troublemaker at this point. So any comment left that involves his name is going to get removed.
I don't think it's that
Or any
bad.
comment that involves my name, because I'll show you the guys the message. I can put it in the text, like what I get from YouTube, like as far as my comments, like they just send me a message that I can't comment like this, but they don't tell me like what comment, and they send me for hate speech. And then maybe that's why, like, literally anywhere I put the comment, a lot of times it disappears in like very short time. But this one disappeared right away.
And all you said was Nathan Oakley, 1980, responded to your video?
That's it. Yeah. Yep. Nathan Oakley is reviewing your video live right now. Check it out.
So do you appear
that I
as
replied personally to? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you appear as a Mighty Mush on the comments in YouTube or Vlad on Flat Earth?
Vlad on Flat Earth.
Yeah, that's probably because you mentioned Flat Earth on it.
Yeah. But hold on 1 second. I'll put this. I'll show you what I get from YouTube usually.
Yeah, that's really the best thing they can do is ignore us and stay away. Pretty much run away from us. That's really their only option.
So that's the message that I get from YouTube.
What are they going to respond with?
Yeah, I agree. That's their only. Stick your head in the sand. What else can you do?
Yeah, there's no valid argument to make. There's, voided arguments, as QE has pointed out. They have fallacious arguments, which are void, which are not arguments. Just so people understand that, a fallacious argument is not better than nothing. It is nothing. Anyway, Was you able to do what you needed to do yet? Nothing. Or are you
Nah, I
still
can't
working
change
on
any
it?
settings while we're still recording, so I'm gonna have to wait till we round out anyway, which has kind of killed the mood of things.
Yeah,
just
a little bit.
I can
but
only assume that I'm just aiming for too high a settings when I'm recording and streaming with the AV1 encoder. So I don't know the capabilities of an AV1 encoder. It's very new technology and was new with the old graphics card, which was failing anyway. So there we go. I'll figure it out.
Well, I have a question. A question about that Vox video. How old was it? You know, did you happen to pay attention to when that one was made?
Let's have a look. 8 days ago.
So it is possible someone's still monitoring comments and removing a previous problem.
Yes, absolutely. Because there's a good chance this videographer probably doesn't put a video out daily. So this is their latest video and they're going to be monitoring the comments on it. Do you have a bit more of it?
Were free to diffuse through it. It was ice 18, 4 times denser than normal ice and able to conduct electricity almost as well as a metal. For a few billionths of a second, the laser had recreated conditions inside Earth.
Had it? No, it hadn't. You reified inside Earth has come from a flat plane. It definitely isn't the case.
Speaking of, let's get back to our journey. As our water starts to turn into ice 18, our glob of sodium is undergoing its own transformation.
No, it isn't. You're just making this stuff up, literally. Like John said, putting these samples in Narnia.
Under these pressures, scientists have seen it turn transparent.
Physically doing things, right? They're changing the makeup of the intermolecular bonds of these and creating isotopes. You know, they are physically doing things. To say that's what's happening in this place you've never been, it's got to be. I don't even know if you call it an argument from ignorance. It's just dumb. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
Now, what could account for this? Well, metals like sodium are shiny because they have a bunch of free-flowing electrons that can absorb and then retransmit light, which we see as a reflection.
What happens when you apply pressure to it is you're squeezing the electrons away from their atoms and into these localized pockets.
Trapped like that, the electrons can't interact with light, and so it just passes through.
I mean, that may very well be the case, but here we go. We're straight back onto the reification of how that is the world.
We've reached the center of the Earth.
No, you haven't.
But that's not the end, because we can continue into pressures found inside larger planets.
No, we can't.
Tens of thousands of kilometers below Jupiter's surface, physicists...
You've got all of these scales for these planets from Kepler and Huygens. Total reification.
Physicists think hydrogen will go through another change, becoming a shiny conductor of electricity. It's thought that a lot of Jupiter is made up of this metallic hydrogen.
Or is it thought that, is it? As evidenced by what? As demonstrated by what? As proven by what?
We think of high-energy density materials as completely inverting the periodic table. So your metals become transparent, and your transparent materials become metals, and all these gases become solids.
And the universe holds higher pressure.
What?
Pressures still. The center of Jupiter sees over 10 million atmospheres, just about the highest pressure that the Omega laser can create. And now we're diving into the sun, where pressures rise over 100 billion atmospheres.
What?
The island of Man.
Go on.
How do they know that's even physically possible? That it doesn't have a limit, like the number one temperature, like the absolute 0.0 Kelvin, right? Like, how do you know pressure can even build up to that level? What a ridiculous notion.
If it did, it wouldn't change anything. But the idea that because you're creating this in a lab, it exists somewhere up in a place that gas isn't expanding into, it's just stupid.
No, the gravity is just so strong, it's preventing the gas pressure from exploding away, even though it's pressurized 100 billion times normal atmosphere, right? That's perfectly fine, even though gravity is not a force, it's just space-time bending. The space-time bending must be so off the chart that there's literally like a barrier in between the physical reality of what occupies the sun and everything else. Otherwise, how else would the pressure be maintained, of that thing that's just a light in the sky?
Right. Well, how do they even, when they say that gravity is the weakest of the four fundamental forces, even though gravity is not a force, how are they saying that gravity is creating forces that can overcome, the weak and strong molecular forces or the electromagnetic force? This is just stupid.
Sorry. It's just that gravity was, if even considered as a force, considered as one of the weakest forces in the universe. While entropy, gas pressure expansion, is considered one of the most powerful forces. Like, that cannot be tamed, that cannot be stopped, except by container walls. Funny, right?
We've seen extreme pressures overwhelming the forces that keep molecules apart. But here, within the sun, they can overcome the very glue that holds atoms together. Here,
Holds them together, isn't it? It's supposed to be a gas. This is their rhetoric for gases not being gases, basically, isn't it?
individual hydrogen nuclei can be fused to form helium, a process that releases energy. This is nuclear fusion, the ultimate source of all energy in our solar system, the reaction at the center of every twinkling star.
The reaction, as he showed it in a cartoon form, had the thing colliding and exploding outwards.
Yes.
But that's not what they described, though, is it? It's all based on downward biases and things that are fusing inside stars.
Yes,
inside.
It's exploding outwards, but then the gravity pulls it back in. The gas go back down, go boom, boom, even under that absurd pressure.
Oh, I see.
The gravity's just so unsurmountably strong, like a little bit stronger, and a black hole would form.
Recreate this process on Earth and keep it going, we would have a near limitless source of clean, cheap power.
Whoa, that sounds familiar. What, free energy? Wow, this is a bit like ether.
And researchers around the world are using giant lasers. And
it's just like the Etherites have just seen this scam and gone, oh, I'll have a bit of that. They get an absolute ton of money out of it.
Including Omega, to study.
And all they do is promise a bit of free energy at the end.
This possibility. This is all a relatively new frontier of physics.
This isn't physics.
Scientists still have so many questions.
They're not scientists, they're frauds.
About the rules, about how different elements and substances act and interact under different conditions, and how that might influence the evolution of planets and their ability to foster life. They'll keep chipping away.
There are no planets. That's another reification taken from flat plane measurements with a minimum elevation angle to Polaris, giving you an equator. And that flat plane, the equatorial plane, having the sky wrapped around it based on the perspective view that you get, forming a relative dome when described in model format. Now that flat plane model, equatorial plane and celestial sphere, that's a flat Earth, can then be turned into a sphere based on the radial value. And then you can put things in motion in a model based on a violation of the initial angle measurement of a flat Earth. That doesn't mean that we've got stars that we're going to discover, or stars that we're going to study, or certainly not stars that we're going to have the centre of violating natural law for you to describe and pay and get handsomely paid for. Let's not forget that bit.
At those unknowns.
Hold on, Nathan, and they don't evolve either. Yeah, that's the thing about the celestial lights in the sky. They've been exactly like that for as long as history can recall. So they don't evolve. You slip that one in.
One split-second experiment at a time.
They're not experiments. If they were, what was the hypothesis, if you feel that that's just an unjustified challenge? If it's an experiment is the actualization of a hypothesis. A hypothesis establishes your independent and dependent variable, that would be to say your observed natural phenomena and the cause thereof that you assume at this stage of hypothesis. So this is not an experiment. If it is, you'd have a hypothesis. It doesn't have one. You don't even have a natural phenomena.
You may be changed because of like valency of
Your sound is terrible, John, and you're roboting. I couldn't hear a word of that.
That's the end of the video anyway. Yeah, that is the end of the video. That was it. At least we got to the end of the video.
Woohoo!
So I've now got a choice, right? I've got a couple of things I can do. If the encoder isn't strong enough to do recording and live streaming at whatever bitrate I've got it set to, then I need to lower the settings or use the chip, the CPU chip, to do one or the other. But then that poses a question. One of them is less demanding. The recording is less demanding than the live streaming. And one of the encoders is stronger than the other. Which one should I use for which? Should I use the stronger encoder for the recording because it's longer? Or should I use the CPU for the encoding? I don't really know. Ask John. Can I ask you a quick question, John? You there? Can you hear me?
He just logged in, so... You're on mute! Okay.
He's obviously got issues. Yeah, he's dropped again. Okay, well, that's going to be it for today then. I'm going to round out and fiddle because I've got no option but to. Well, what am I going to do, Alvin? I can't fiddle while the stream's recording. So if you want to hang around, if you and Right just want to tell John when he gets back to hang around, I might run another stream. But it means you hanging around for a bit. You want to do that?
Nah.
Well, then I won't.
Nah, just screw it.
Discord.
All right, well, thank you very much. With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Thank you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!